Hi guys, welcome to another video section of Learning Made Fun with Servine. In today's section, we're going to talk about squaring of numbers, specifically squaring of 2-digit numbers, 3-digit numbers that ends with 5. But before we dive into this squaring of numbers thing, I would like us to just recap on what a square means. So if we've got something squared, what we actually implying is the quantity is multiplying itself. Example, if you've got a squared, a is going to multiply itself, and a squared gives you a times a. Now that's what we're going to do throughout, but we're going to focus on squaring of numbers that ends with 5. So you're going to see numbers like 15, 25, 75, 85, and so on and so forth, because you just are getting numbers that ends with 5. Now the easiest number of this is 5 squared. 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. There is no two ways about this. This one is very straightforward and very easy. But when you encounter something like 95 squared, which is 95 times 95, at times it's some way. Honestly, if you look at it this way, you can see that it's quite a tedious multiplication to do. But since it's ending with 5, 95, it ends with 5, this becomes very easy for us to do. But before we go into how we're going to square this 95, let's start with the basics, like 15 squared. Now 15 squared, whenever you're squaring a number that ends with 5, it has got two entries. Let me put it that way. So we've got the first entry and the last entry. We're actually going to focus on the first entry, not the last entry, because with the last entry, it's always the same. Whenever you square a number that ends with 5, the answer always ends with 25. Now the first part of the answer is what we're going to focus on. Now if we check 15, it has got a 1 in front of a 5. So this one is what we're going to base on. When you move from 1, the next natural number from 1, after 1, let me put it that way, is 2. We're going to multiply these two numbers, and that is going to give us the first part of the solution. So we've got 1 times 2 giving us 2. Making 15 squared to be 225. Now let's see another example. 35 squared. Like we know, this is going to have 2 slots. Let me put, it's going to have 2 slots, a green and a blue, which we know that the final answer is always going to end with 25. That is because the number we're squaring ends with 5. Now the first part of the answer is always based on the number in front of the squaring that you're going to do. In this case is 3. The next natural number after 3 is 4, which you're going to find the product of 3 and 4, and the product between 3 and 4 is 12, giving us 35 squared to be 1225. Isn't that simple? Let's see, let's go into maybe something like 55 squared. 55 squared. Now we know that the final answer is going to end with 25, so we're not going to bother ourselves that much. Now in this case, we've got 5 over here in front of the 5. The next natural number after 5 is 6, so we're going to multiply this 5 by the 6. 6 times 5 gives us 30. Therefore 55 squared gives us 3025. Now let's go to the question we started with. The question we started with, that is the 95 squared. Now pause the video and see if you can do this on your own without my help. Okay, I think by now you've gotten me a solution. Now the first part of the answer always based on the first number. This number is 9. We're going to multiply this 9 by the next natural number. In this case, the next natural number after 9 is 10. 9 times 10 gives us 90. So that's the first part of the answer. And since the number we're squaring ends with 5, the last part of the answer ends with 25. So that's the trick for squaring numbers that ends with